While creating some pro-life content, this comment was left on one of the videos I made. This individual says, I would have chosen for my mom to abort me. She wouldn't have had to be as sad as she will be when I abort myself 25 years later. I really hope this person isn't serious. I get a lot of people who say scammy type of things on my posts. I really hope that's this case. I don't know. I genuinely do not know if this is legitimate or not. But either way, here's what I would say to this person. You are a valuable individual. Your life was meant to be protected from violence from the moment of fertilization. That's when you first came to exist as a single-celled embryo in your mother's womb. Whatever you've been through, whatever your childhood may have been like, or maybe your adult experiences have been, you are a worthwhile and valuable and important person. And I think this is an important moment for us to stop and ask a question about the meaning of life. Because sometimes we're like, oh, look, you're human. You're a person. And we'd go through all these different things in the pro-life movement, but people sometimes are still left with this very deep-seated sense of worthlessness. And I think that's when we really need to pause and talk about faith. So I would encourage this person to think about, why were you created? Why were you made? What makes your life worth living? So I believe, as a Christian who believes in the Bible, that you are an individual who is made in the image of God. You're valuable, and you were not created at random by two people who randomly decided to have sex. You were created intentionally by God, who had a purpose and a plan for you to exist, for you to live at this time in history with your specific parents and your specific circumstances. It doesn't mean that's easy. So if that comes with suffering, I'm so sorry, because every person suffers in their story in this fallen world. But God actually made us for a perfect world without suffering. And in the book of Genesis in the Bible, it talks about the kind of world God made us for. He made us for the Garden of Eden, where we could walk closely with God, where there was no pain and suffering and no sin. But each of us have chosen to sin and fallen short of God's glory. And as a result of that, there's a lot of sin and suffering in our world. And so sometimes we don't feel valuable. Sometimes we feel like life isn't meaningful, or like it isn't worthwhile because we're going through something that's breaking our hearts, that's super painful, or it seems like one bad thing happens and another bad thing happens and life is just stressful and overwhelming and that it never gets better. But I want to say to this person, no matter what you're going through, no matter what situation you were in as a child or you're in now as an adult, your life is valuable and you are meant to be here. Self-harm is not the answer. Suicide is not the answer. And as a matter of fact, for you, specifically this person commenting, I hope you're not serious about this, but if you are, I just looked up the suicide crisis line for you, and the suicide crisis line is 988. Just call 988 right now for help, because I want you to keep living. Whatever you think about abortion, if you are 100% for it or 100% against it, I want you to live. I don't want you to die. And your life is worth it. Even if you're hurting, even if you're aching, even if it feels like everything that's ever happened to you has gone wrong, and if it feels like everything that's to come still hurts, there is a God who loves you and who cares about you, and your life is valuable. That's actually why I'm here doing this channel and this advocacy, is because in our culture, we devalue certain humans, and that would be babies in the womb, the unborn. And we execute them over 3,000 times a day in America. And those children are seen as disposable. We call them non-persons, we say they're not humans, and that is not true. Those people are humans, they are valuable, and they deserve to be safe from violence, and you deserve to be safe from violence too. You deserve to have a life where you understand the love of God towards you, and that you receive his pardon. We actually don't deserve God's grace, so let me catch myself there before I say that wrong, but God gives his undeserved grace to us, even though we could never earn it. So I want you to, reach out today. Call that suicide hotline if you need that. Call 988 and get help, or go to psychiatric urgent care, because I want you to keep living. Even if, as I'm reading into your comment, I have no idea your story, but as I read about, I would have chosen for my mom to abort me. I read someone who's hurting. I read someone who maybe had a bad childhood. I read maybe someone who didn't have a good relationship with their mom, or maybe your mom told you that you were unwanted. Whatever other humans may do to us, or however much other humans may fail to value us, our worth is actually undiminished and unchanged. So even if maybe your mom did say something like, I wish I'd had an abortion. I wish I hadn't been pregnant with you. I wish I hadn't had you. It can feel so horribly devastating, because some moms actually are very cruel and say things like that. Even if your mother has said something to you like that, your life is valuable, it's not a mistake, and you are meant to be here. The tragic thing in a fallen world is that sometimes people who aren't growing the ways God wants them to, who aren't becoming more selfless and more able to serve others, instead they are very selfish and they're only thinking about themselves, can really harm their own children. And that's not what God wants for you. He doesn't want you to be in a family where you're being harmed or where you're being put down or where your mom is saying you should have been aborted. That's not from him. There's hope for you beyond that whole situation. If that's even what you're going through, I have no idea. You shouldn't have been aborted, okay? From the moment of fertilization, you should have been protected. You should have been able to be born like you were. I'm glad you were born. Even though we have very different ideologies, you're pro-choice and I'm not pro-choice. I'm so glad you were born. You were supposed to be born. And you were supposed to not be dismembered in the womb, to not be poisoned in the womb, to not have your skull crushed in the womb. I'm so glad none of those things happened to you. Now, that violence didn't happen to you then, when you were an embryo or a fetus. And now, as an individual who's made it through toddlerhood and childhood and adulthood, here you are, whatever age you're presently at, I don't know because this user, there's not much information here. Whoever you are, whatever stage you're at in life, your life is meant to continue. Violence wasn't the answer when you were in the womb, and it is not the answer now. So, I want you to believe as you go through heartache or a life of various kinds of pain that there's hope beyond this current moment and that you're a person who needs healing. So reach out for healing. If you need to, call 988 and get help. But remember, your life is valuable and you weren't supposed to be aborted. And you aren't supposed to have your life ended now. Dare to believe in hope against what may be difficult feelings at the moment or profoundly overwhelming feelings. Depression is a liar. Don't listen to the messages that come with that. Listen to the truth, and that is that you're a valuable human being made in God's image and you were meant to be here.